Chapter 1250. This is my disaster. The figure in the fog had only managed to mention the anticidental spirit's disaster when his body froze. The world swiftly fell silent. Space went still as if all things had been frozen for eternity and all lives had stopped thinking. Even the powerful and mysterious sublime paragon from the fourth true world had to extinguish all signs of his life under the indescribable will of heaven. This was not death, but a dead stillness that left a person between a state of living and dying. It seemed like all existences in the universe did not dare to continue living, but they were also not allowed to die, which was why they chose to temporarily become blank slates, the background for the will of heaven that would soon descend. It did not matter whether they were willing or unwilling. All of them had to do this. There was shock on the boy's face. It was something he rarely showed, but not only did it appear at that moment, it had also frozen to become an expression that seemed like it would exist on his face forever, because his body had frozen completely. Only the terror in his eyes and the inverted image reflected in his pupils could allow others to see the truth of what he saw before the entire universe froze. It was a scene of the whirlwind in true morning Tao world freezing, as well as all the laws there coming to a stop, as if they had been frozen by unseen ice. Everything froze, and it was the same for the land of berserkers beside Yin Death Vortex. The flow of their blood, the beating of their hearts, their cultivation bases, and even their thoughts came to a stop at that instant. All the berserkers on the land, including Fang Kang Lan, turned into something akin to statues. They were frozen in space and retained their expressions from before. In fact, they did not even know that their lives had been stopped. They were not the only ones affected. It could be said that all the lives in true morning Tao world, no matter what sort of level of cultivation they had, where they were, what they were doing, and whether they were alive or dead, became still when the laws froze. People's personal intentions, the powerful warriors' intentions, and even the race's intentions were so insignificant before this will of heaven that they could not put up the slightest struggle. No matter what the 1 million cultivators were doing in the 9th summit, even if they were located in the spot once belonging to Morning Tao sect, they could not avoid being frozen when the world came to a stop. All of them stopped moving. Su Ming's eldest senior brother, second senior brother, Hu Zi, everyone was frozen. There were no exceptions. It was the same for the first line of defense from true sacred Yin world, the fourth true world, and the 9th summit stationed near Arid Triad's Gap to fend against the foreigners. The 300,000 cultivators and the dozens of people who were constantly observing the gap in the whirlwind, as well as the shrieking whirlwind that seemed as if it would never stop, froze at that instant. It was as if the world had turned into a still picture existing eternally on a scroll. There were 2 cultivators from the 9th summit beside Arid Triad's Gap. The 2 of them had shock on their faces, as if they had just discovered information that they had to immediately report back to the army. Their gazes were fixed on Arid Triad's Gap, and they looked like they were about to retreat, but they did not move. There were 8 people beyond Arid Triad's Gap at that moment. There were murderous and sullen looks on their faces as they stepped into it, but the moment they entered Arid Triad, they were frozen. Countless cultivators from Saint Defier and Dark Dawn could be seen at Arid Triad's Gap, but their expressions changed and they instantly stopped moving in shock. They did not dare step inside, because if they entered Arid Triad, they would definitely be stopped for eternity. There were 2 indistinct figures in the galaxy beyond Arid Triad's Gap at that moment. They were one of the most supreme wills in Saint Defier and Dark Dawn. Based on their figures, it could be seen that they were a man and a woman. The woman represented Saint Defier, and the man Dark Dawn. The 2 people's bodies seemed to be formed by fog which was swiftly gathering together. Their appearances could not be seen clearly, but based on the grave look in their eyes, it could be seen that their hearts were not calm. This is Arid Disaster. Someone is going through the anticidental spirit's disaster in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. The 2 people were silent for a moment before they spoke hoarsely at the same time. They cast each other a glance then. They might be enemies, but they had already reached a consensus towards Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos, which was why they saw caution in each other's eyes, as well as a hint of them regarding this matter with great importance. The man was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, "Stop advancing. We will only enter once this person gets through his disaster." Once he finished speaking, the countless cultivators behind him took 3 simultaneous steps backwards. Besides true morning Tao world, true sacred Yin world, the Emperor of Abyss true world, and the fourth true world were also frozen in arid triad expanse cosmos. It could be said that all regions in arid triad expanse cosmos were frozen at that instant. They were as still as water, and not a single ripple could be seen. Only Yin Death region remained a sole existence that was not frozen in all of arid triad expanse cosmos. The vortex was still rotating, as if it was completely unaffected. It was as if even if the antecedental spirit's disaster was something that could make all existences apprehensive and Saint Defire as well as Dark Dawn temporarily avoid its brilliance. Yin Death vortex would still continue rotating. This disaster could not affect it even in the slightest. The worlds in Yin Death vortex were the same. When everything beyond the vortex froze, they continued with their usual operations, exactly the way they had done every single day in the past. It seemed all the changes in the worlds beyond were completely unrelated to Yin Death vortex, as if they were two different worlds. Su Ming's pupils shrank. He lifted his head and stared at the vortex above him. The eyes of the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe sparkled brightly while he was not too far away. He had been waiting for this day for far too long. Right then, it had finally arrived. An increasingly powerful presence continued gathering on the old man's body, as if he was a sharp sword that was about to be drawn. At that moment, he was showing his intention of cutting down the heavens. In fact, a vortex had appeared around him once more. It started rotating along with his will while an indescribable, brilliant light in the old man's eyes. It seemed to be the brightest light in the world that could burn all lives that looked into his eyes. At that moment, a loud bang echoed through all of True Morning Tao world. It spread out and filled every single region in arid triad expanse cosmos. At the moment the sound rang out, a crimson lightning bolt that was the size of a normal person's arm gathered in the air beyond Yin Death vortex. When it appeared, the space around it was immediately dyed blood red, as if it had been turned into a hellish ocean. If anyone cast their eyes on it, they would find that everything had turned the color of blood. The light spread through all of True Morning Tao world. It filled True Sacred Yin world, the Emperor of Abyss True world, and the mysterious Fourth True world. Even the barren lands of Divine Essence were covered by the red light. When the lightning bolt appeared, it swiftly turned light red. With an indescribable presence, it seemed to have swept up all of arid triad into one single lightning bolt that charged into Yin Death vortex. During the process of its descent, the light spreading through arid triad expanse cosmos instantly moved in reverse and shrank. Eventually, it gathered together, making the bolt of lightning turn an extreme shade of red. The bolt of lightning then charged into the vortex. The rotation of the vortex shuddered, but the red bolt of lightning also trembled violently. Its color became duller, but it continued rushing forward. An astonishing roar came from it, and it shot through Yin Death fog with crushing force. It charged into the depths, straight to where Su Ming was. It seemed to be chasing after Su Ming's life. Once it locked onto him, no matter where he hid, it would definitely descend on him. Until it wiped out Su Ming's life, it would never stop. Su Ming had used 7 days to reach the depth of Yin Death vortex, but the lightning had instantly reached his field of vision. It was crimson and had a domineering air that seemed to represent arid triad's strongest will and a madness intent on destruction. It looked like the blood capillaries in a crazed person's eyes. At the instant Su Ming saw the bolt of lightning, it stirred up a deafening, thunderous roar, and approached him. The 9 disasters of the antecedental spirits, each of them is stronger than the last. The ancient voice of the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe echoed in the air. He took a step forward, and the moment he lifted his foot, a ferocious look appeared in his eyes. It was his arid disaster, so Su Ming did not want to have the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe fight against it by himself. He wanted to try getting through the disaster with his own power. Only by doing so would he have the will to face any dangers he would have to deal with in the future. Only when he could not get through it would he require someone else to help him. Until then, he would personally face the disaster. This is a disaster and a serendipity. A brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. I will get through the first disaster myself. While speaking, Su Ming swiftly moved. The third eye at the center of his brow opened, and the red bolt of lightning that closed in on him was magnified an infinite number of times. Su Ming lifted his right hand, formed a seal, and struck his third eye. When he did so, his will of a true world and an antecedental spirit erupted from him. Even though the true world had been frozen, Su Ming was the true world and the master of its will. Mountain Shifter. He lifted his arms, then put his hands together before swiftly striking the top of his head. 100,000 mountains instantly appeared around him. They manifested simultaneously and gathered around him before overlapping with each other. They formed a towering mountain which crashed against the descending red lightning with a loud bang. From the distance, it did not seem as if the lightning bolt was descending with a mighty presence. Instead, it looked as if Su Ming was attacking nothing. At the instant the lightning bolt touched the mountain, Su Ming's entire body shuddered. The towering mountain formed when the 100,000 mountains around him overlapped with each other shuddered violently. Amid the loud bang, it shattered, and in an instant, it crumbled to pieces. The red bolt of lightning became duller, but it maintained its speed. Its killing intent was astonishing as it charged straight towards the center of Su Ming's brow. Chapter 1251. The approaching 5 colors. A profound look appeared in the eyes of the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe. He stared at Su Ming and did not immediately help him. If Su Ming did not choose to personally go through the disaster, he would have naturally helped him, but he would have been certain in his heart that Su Ming's success would come to an end at that point. If the person did not even dare to face their own antecedental spirit's disaster, then they would definitely not become someone outstanding. They could only be part of the common folk, and not only would their level of cultivation not increase, their cultivation base would slowly scatter. This was why when Su Ming asked to get through his disaster himself, the old man saw Su Ming's worthiness and his responsible nature. He was very curious as to how many disasters Su Ming could get through. His disaster is bound to be different compared to others due to my existence. His first disaster alone already surpasses what I previously understood of this disaster. And if this place wasn't Yin Death Vortex, the might of the disaster would have been even more terrifying. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe frowned and watched the red lightning swiftly close in on Su Ming. A brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. In the face of the powerful arid disaster, it was difficult for him to fend against it with his mountain shifter art. But Su Ming had predicted this beforehand, which was why when the huge mountain formed by the 100,000 mountains overlapping each other collapsed, he did not wait for the red lightning to descend on him. He formed a seal with his hands and struck his chest. With it, Su Ming took a few swift steps backwards, and when he opened his mouth, purple light shone. It instantly reached 100,000 feet, completely enveloping Su Ming within it. From the distance, Su Ming looked as if he was a huge, purple sword in Yin Death Vortex. End of Wills, Mountain Shifter. A large amount of red appeared in Su Ming's eyes at that moment. It was due to him circulating all the cultivation base in his body to activate the End of Wills sword. With the power of the sword, he shook the universe and connected it with his true world to move all the mountains in it so that he could activate the strongest mountain shifter art. The sword shared a similar form to mountains during ancient times. In the hands of men, branches and metal could be turned into swords. Then in the hands of heaven, the mountains on the earth and the logs could also be turned into swords. That was why he used the sword to activate mountain shifter art. This was what Su Ming could think of to make his mountain shifter art even stronger. At that moment, when he executed the art without hesitation, his will of an antecedental spirit spread out of Yin Death region to fill the frozen true morning Tao world. The souls of all the countless broken cultivation planets and the ones that existed in the past, the floating continents, and shattered mountains seemed to have been extracted at that instant while they buzzed and trembled. They instantly appeared around Su Ming in Yin Death Vortex. 100,000, 1 million, 10 million. When there were more than 100 million of them, they no longer surrounded Su Ming, because Yin Death Vortex could no longer contain them if they did so. The souls of the mountains overlapped with each other around Su Ming. The tip of the End of Wills sword before him was the summit, and as mountains manifested and overlapped with each other, in the blink of an eye, there were 300 million of them. Once they fused and overlapped with each other, they formed a purple mountain containing the supreme blade of the End of Wills sword, the vast amount of mountain souls from true morning Tao world, and an indestructible body. When the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe saw this, he narrowed his eyes slightly. He had witnessed scenes that could nearly be considered as miracles from Su Ming time and again. Regardless of whether he was in the All Spirits Hall, they were wandering about in the world outside, or Su Ming was fighting against the antecedental spirit's disaster, all of the things the old man witnessed were not usual. This child is skilled in hiding his arts, such as this one. It is already much stronger than what he executed before. He is truly someone who is unassuming when he does not take action, but when he does, he will be an astonishing force. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe let out a sigh of relief when he saw Su Ming turn into the Purple Mountain, because he knew that Su Ming had not recklessly stated that he wanted to challenge the antecedental spirit's disaster, but had made his decision a long time ago and had even begun making preparations a long time ago. It's a pity. If only he were a member of my race. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe shook his head, unable to hide the harmless envy he had towards Great Berserker Tribe. At the time the old man shook his head, Su Ming turned into the blade-like mountain in Yin Death Vortex. All of this might seem to have taken a lot of time, but in truth, it was over in an instant. At the moment the red bolt of lightning approached Su Ming, it crashed into the Purple Mountain. Endless booming sounds echoed endlessly in the area at that instant. The red bolt of lightning was the first disaster from Su Ming's arid disaster, and it was also the weakest out of the 7. After being suppressed by Yin Death Vortex and weakened by Su Ming's first Mountain Shifter Art, it crashed into his End of Will's Mountain Shifter Art, which he had prepared with his full might. At the instant booming sounds reverberated through the air, the Purple Mountain that was Su Ming trembled violently. Cracking sounds rose and fell, and cracks swiftly went down the mountain. Red light shone through them. The red light was naturally the power of the red lightning, and it seemed to be spilling out and scattering into thin air. When it fought against Su Ming's mountain, its power continued to weaken. When a deafening roar surged into the sky, the Purple Mountain formed by 300 million mountain souls shattered into pieces. With a killing intent that had been accumulating in the End of Will's sword for a long time, purple light swiftly rushed at the incredibly dull red lightning that had descended into Yin Death Vortex. Piercing sounds swiftly shot into the air. It was the sound of the End of Will's sword crashing into the red bolt of lightning. That sound only lasted for about 2 breaths before a brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. For the first time since the disaster began, he rushed out and charged towards the red bolt of lightning. This was Su Ming's linked series of divine abilities. The first was Mountain Shifter, the second was End of Will's Mountain Shifter, and the third was the killing intent of the End of Will's sword. Once he continuously weakened the red lightning bolt like that, Su Ming attacked. With the simplest method, he threw a punch against the incredibly dull red lightning bolt when the End of Will's sword moved back. Booming sounds rang out. Su Ming shuddered, but he did not move back. Instead, he lifted his head, and his presence of looking down on the world became stronger. When the red bolt of lightning, the first arid disaster, shattered, Su Ming's presence reached its strongest state. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe witnessed all of this, and praise appeared in his eyes. No matter what method Su Ming used, he had indeed fought against the antecedental spirit's disaster on his own. Perhaps this would not be enough for his level of cultivation to increase, but his heart and will would get stronger by leaps and bounds, as if he had taken a huge step forward. There are 7 disasters for antecedental spirits. I might have been the one who brought this disaster to you, but I suspect that you will at most go through 3 disasters. After all, you have only gone through a spirit ascension once. I can help you go through the 3 disasters. If you want to go through the disasters on your own, then I will take action at appropriate moments. After all, I have already verified one of my guesses. Now, what will you do for your second disaster? The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe asked while looking at Su Ming. I want to go through the second disaster on my own as well. Su Ming remained silent for a few breaths before wrapping his fist in his palm towards the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe. His aura was like a tidal wave at that moment. He could not lose it just yet, which was why no matter how strong the second disaster was, he had to persevere through it. And, most importantly, Su Ming could clearly sense his aura continue gathering around him, as if it was about to reach a breakthrough. It was related to his state of being as well as his will of an antecedental spirit. Su Ming had only gone through 1 spirit ascension in all Spirits Hall. It was not because he did not know the number for the second spirit ascension, but because he had a feeling that the second spirit ascension was beyond his abilities. If he forcefully ascended, then even if he had the correct number, he had a feeling that he might not necessarily succeed. It was just like the feeling of helplessness a mortal would have after seeing a 100 feet tall rock once they were able to lift a 10 feet tall rock. Yet right then, once Su Ming went through his first disaster, he had a very strong feeling that once he reached a breakthrough this time, he could go through his second spirit ascension. 9 spirit ascensions. Su Ming's heart pounded, but not a single hint of it could be detected on his face. When he lifted his head and stared at the vortex, a hint of fighting spirit appeared in his eyes, and hidden behind that spirit was anticipation, and it was an emotion only he knew. Very well. Based on what I know, the second disaster is the 5 lightning disaster. This disaster. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe nodded. But just as he was about to continue speaking, thunderous roars echoed from above Yin Death Vortex. At the moment the sound appeared, the old man looked at the vortex above him. There seemed to be 5 colors shining there. This scene caused his heart to tremble, and brilliant light instantly shone in his eyes. He focused his attention on the area. This is. When the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe saw the 5-colored light clearly, his expression changed, and a hint of shock appeared on his face. At the same time, 4 bolts of lightning appeared out of nowhere in the north, south, east, and west of the still arid triad expanse cosmos. They turned into long arcs that charged into Yin Death Vortex. They moved so quickly that no cultivator could compare to their speed. They only needed an instant to move through a true world. The 4 long arcs had 4 colors that constantly changed. There was black, white, red, and pink. As they changed, they instantly closed in on Yin Death Vortex. The moment they arrived, the 5th long arc appeared in the galaxy beyond Yin Death Vortex. It was yellow, and it symbolized supreme majesty. It was just like the imperial power belonging to the emperors in the mortal world. The yellow light filled the whole place. The other 4 colors surrounded it, but they did not cluster around it. Instead, they arranged themselves based on some sort of law and charged into Yin Death Vortex. Booming sounds echoed in the air, and the 5 long arcs surged into the vortex, instantly appearing before Su Ming's eyes. It was at that moment that he heard the old man's disbelieving murmurs. 5-colored lightning. It's the 5-colored lightning. Chapter 1252. The second disaster 5-colored lightning was a lightning with 5 colors. However, the ordinary 5 colors were not worthy of being known as these 5 colors. Only the 5 long arcs revealed before Su Ming and the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe right then were colors who gave each life when they were born in the world the years of their lives as well as some abstruse theories linked to life. The black color was not completely black. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say that in the beginning, it was a color that was close to faint brown. It was the color of a child. The red brought with it gentleness and mildness. It brought with it youth and the best years of a person's life. It did not describe a woman, but all men and women at the prime of their lives, causing all those who saw it to be immersed in it. That was the color of red. The pink hue had with it temptation and seduction. It contained all the primitive urges in the world and could light up a person's soul. It could make people unable to help themselves but be immersed in it. It was also not used to describe a woman, but symbolized the maturity and charm of a person after they moved past their prime and arrived at another stage of their life. It was pink. The white was not the color of snow, but a form of ancient air. It was like white hair, making anyone who stared at it to feel as if they could see themselves when they grew old many years later. They would naturally sigh and lament the changes of time as well as how it passed by them without leaving a single sign. When they realized it, they would have already arrived at the late stages of their lives. It was the color of a crane. As for the yellow long arc that was the symbol of the mortal's emperor, it was a symbol of supremacy, as if it stood above all and looked down upon the world. It was a color of nobility that could not be put to words. It was a light needed to lead all forms of life, and it was the color of a dragon. Those were the 5 colors. The color of a child, red, pink, the color of a dragon, and the color of the crane. They contained all forms of life, including humans, and gave all forms of existence 5 different colors. At that moment, as the 5 long arcs descended, they changed and transformed into faces that swiftly closed in on Su Ming. The first to approach him was the color of the child. It instantly reached him, and Su Ming's eyes sparkled. He lifted his right hand and cut down on the air before him. He knew of the terror of the arid disaster, and he had to give it his all when he attacked. The God-Slayer art swiftly appeared and turned into an arc in the air before Su Ming to charge at the color of the child like a long blade falling downwards. The power of absolute accuracy and rebound immediately erupted the moment the arc touched the lightning, which was the color of a child. Su Ming moved back without hesitation while his eyes shone brilliantly. He might have attacked with all his might, but due to the different divine abilities, the strength of his attacks would naturally differ. At that moment, he had only executed the God-Slayer art to test the strength of the lightning. Based on the results, Su Ming would execute different divine abilities, but he did not expect that when the long blade formed by the God-Slayer art touched the lightning, which was the color of a child, it would shudder and shatter to pieces. Su Ming was stunned. In the meantime, the lightning, which was the color of red and pink, charged towards him. Behind them were the faces formed by the color of a dragon and a crane. They were all swiftly approaching him. Su Ming immediately took a few steps back. But when he was about to attack, his heart suddenly shuddered. He sensed that some sort of change seemed to have happened in his body. It was incredibly bizarre, and he sensed his own face changing before the concentrated mass of faces in front of him. The world seemed to be getting smaller before his eyes, and he could not help but have a feeling of weakness rise in his heart. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe watched Su Ming. He could clearly see him turning into a child. When he gained the appearance of a newborn, anguish appeared on the old man's face. This is the five-colored light. When the universe was just born and all lives were created, they were given these fairly distributed 5 colors. They make up all lives from the moment they were born to the moment they return to dust. Only when you crush them and experience the 5 colors will the disaster truly appear. When the old man spoke, Su Ming noticed that his appearance had changed drastically, but the feeling of weakness in his body did not make him feel apprehensive. An even stronger light shone in his eyes. He could sense that the signs of a breakthrough had become even stronger once his appearance changed. A resolute glare shone in Su Ming's eyes. With a single move, he took a step forward without hesitation and punched the air in the direction of the incoming red lightning. As loud booming sounds shot into the air, the red lightning shattered, and even the pink lightning behind it shattered, as if it was so weak that it could not withstand even a single hit. Su Ming's appearance changed again. From a newborn, he turned into a teenager, and when he became a man at the prime of his life, Su Ming's punch landed on the color of a dragon. As it shattered, Su Ming's appearance changed again. This time, he was a middle-aged man with an awe-inspiring might, as if he was a supreme existence. It was also during this moment that the feeling as if Su Ming was about to reach a breakthrough reached its peak. With just a little more, he could do it. With a longing and determination, Su Ming lifted his right hand and pushed the air in the direction of the final color of a crane. Boom! The lightning instantly crumbled. When it did, Su Ming threw his head back and howled. His presence was the same as before, but he could sense a form of metamorphosis in his will, like an explosion. This feeling continued, and suddenly, the 5-colored lightning that had crumbled when it descended gathered together again and manifested before him. It gathered together so quickly that it gained form in the blink of an eye. The 5 colors did not take the form of a lightning bolt, however. They appeared as faces, but there were only 5 faces this time. Each bolt of lightning had taken the form of a face. All the faces belonged to Su Ming. They were Su Ming when he was a newborn, a teenager, a young man, a middle-aged man, and an old man. They surrounded each other and formed a huge hand that swiftly went to grab Su Ming. A powerful sense of danger rose in Su Ming's heart. The threat came from the hand and the astonishing presence spreading out from it. That presence surpassed the previous red lightning by a lot. The hand's speed was so quick that it instantly covered an endless distance. With just one stretch, it covered the entire area around Su Ming. It locked down every possible escape and turned into the sky when it went atop his head. When it enveloped him, it turned into a cage. Its momentum caused booming sounds to shoot up into the air. Then, it clenched its fist to seize Su Ming. Brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. When the hand locked down every single possible escape route and he was about to be caught in the palm, he closed his eyes. Right away, a large amount of black light surged out of his body. It was the light of extreme darkness. When he was surrounded by the light of extreme darkness, Su Ming looked like a sharp black thorn. Then, he simply allowed the hand to grab him. Muffled booming sounds shot up. At the moment the hand grabbed Su Ming, it stopped abruptly, and a large amount of black light shot out through the spaces between its fingers. The low growl of a dragon rose from the hand. Chapter 1253. The God of Berserkers crushes the disaster. It was the dragon of destruction from Su Ming's soul, the one from that came from his mother's race. The dragon gathered together a supreme, chilling air, causing the power of the light of extreme darkness to become much greater. It surrounded Su Ming and turned into the origin of the light of extreme darkness, and the dragon of destruction roared. Booming sounds instantly surged up and continued without end, and each one was stronger than the last. In just the span of a few breaths, the palm formed by the 5 colors looked as if it could no longer close up completely. More black light spilled out from the spaces between its fingers. As it did, it started to look like the hand was being enveloped by endless light of extreme darkness. The image of the dragon of destruction manifested in it and charged out. The light of extreme darkness shining through the spaces of the hand instantly looked as if it had gained sentience. It spread out, as if it had turned Su Ming's body from something of corporeal form to something without form. He turned into an illusion that fused with the light of extreme darkness, and large quantities of him spread out from the spaces between the fingers to gather in midair again before he turned into the huge and ferocious dragon of destruction. Once the dragon appeared, it roared towards the heavens. Its voice was as mighty as thunder and seemed to contain the might of heaven. Its eyes shone brilliantly when it looked at the hand formed by the 5 faces. The hand slowly unfurled, revealing that there was nothing on its palm. Then, the hand rose up and seized the dragon of destruction. This time, the 5 fingers formed by the 5 faces became clearer. Power of ocean remover, scatter the light of extreme darkness. Dragon of destruction in my soul, form the chill. The eyes of the dragon of destruction shone with a chilling air. As Su Ming mumbled, the light of extreme darkness spread out swiftly. This was a metamorphosis of his divine ability that Su Ming had figured out earlier when he was alone. Among his divine abilities, Mountain Shifter, Ocean Remover, God of Berserkers Transformation, God Slayer, and Arid Curse were the main ones. When Mountain Shifter fused with the end of Will's sword, he could bring forth 300 million mountain souls and turn them into a mighty art. This was the end of Will's mountain soul tremor art. The Ocean Remover art in itself was a manifestation of the light of extreme darkness. When it fused with the dragon of destruction in Su Ming's soul, its might would increase by several times, but it would not be able to match up to the Mountain Shifter art that had gathered together 300 million mountain souls, because this art did not have a supreme treasure like the end of Will's sword to be used with it. But Su Ming had used the ring on the Ocean Remover art. Because of it, his Ocean Remover divine ability attained a terrifying might. Next, it was his God of Berserkers art. Su Ming no longer needed to test this art. The first and second style of the God of Berserkers transformation were by themselves even stronger divine abilities, while Su Ming was under the effect of the God of Berserkers transformation. At that moment, when he saw the hand formed by the 5 faces charge towards him, a powerful mighty pressure that seemed to be able to destroy all lives spread out from the hand. In an instant, it approached him. At the moment it seized him, Su Ming growled as the dragon of destruction and swept up the ocean-like light of extreme darkness around him. He moved, but he did not retreat. Instead, he charged towards the hand. When the 2 sides crashed into each other and the hand opened up to grab the dragon of destruction, Su Ming flung his body forward. His tail swung outwards and surrounded the hand, as if he wanted to envelop the 5 fingers with his tail. With his body as the rope, he intended to bind the 5 fingers. During that instant, as the dragon's tail grew endlessly and touched his head, Su Ming's body turned into a circle around the hand. Slaughter from the ring of the freezing dragon of destruction. When Su Ming mumbled these words, the presence of a supreme treasure erupted from the ring-shaped body of the dragon of destruction. The ring came from Saint Defire Expanse Cosmos, and it was a supreme treasure at the level of those in a Vanakaya realm that Su Ming had snatched for himself. All of this might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, it happened in an instant. At the moment the ring appeared, it immediately grew and seemed to fuse with Su Ming's dragon of destruction to the point that they could no longer be differentiated. When this happened, the dragon of destruction's body swiftly shrank. The ring, too, shrank and bound the 5 fingers of the hand. A loud bang shot up. As the dragon of destruction that had fused with the ring, not only did Su Ming bind the 5 fingers together, he also intended to kill them as his body shrank. This was him taking the initiative from being passive at the start. It was Su Ming revealing his fangs. He did not want to passively receive his disaster. He wanted to take the initiative and attack. He wanted to destroy the disaster. From the distance, it looked like Su Ming had turned into a ring. The 5 fingers on the hand were bound tightly by it, and when he shrank, he was going to break all 5 fingers. Booming sounds echoed in the air. As the dragon of destruction and the ring shrank swiftly, the 5 fingers started trembling, especially at the spot where the ring bound them. The skin there swiftly sank, but a powerful rebound continuously made the sunken spots bounce back. The 5 fingers shone, but their light was starting to grow dull. Clearly, even this disaster found it hard to escape Su Ming's counterattack. Boom! The index finger was the first to crumble. Once it broke, the red face twisted and disappeared without a trace, with a sigh filled with unwillingness to admit defeat. It was immediately followed by the face of the child on the pinky. Amid the booming sounds, it also crumbled and shattered. When the first finger crumbled, Su Ming felt his spirits lift, but when the second finger crumbled, the dragon of destruction narrowed his eyes slightly. Su Ming might be confident, but he would not be as egotistical as to believe that his divine ability would be strong enough to force the second disaster of the antecedental spirits to retreat. His intention had been to continuously weaken the hand while it struggled, just like how he handled the first disaster. He wanted to weaken it to its extreme before he launched a fatal strike. Yet at that moment, it might as well be said that the hand had crumbled on its own. When the finger representing pink crumbled under Su Ming's dragon of destruction ring, it was followed by the color of a crane, which was the thumb, and the color of a dragon, which was the middle finger. All of them crumbled, causing the ring that was Su Ming to shrink to its limit. Right when the dragon of destruction and the ring shrank to its limit, the 5 fingers that had already dissipated seemed to float on the palm of the now fingerless hand. Suddenly, the air at the spot where the fingers were distorted, and all the fingers appeared simultaneously, as if the crushing just then had only been an illusion. If it was not because the fingers that appeared once more were clearly much duller than before, Su Ming would have definitely thought that his plan to weaken the fingers had failed. How troublesome, this second disaster! Su Ming sighed in his heart. When the 5 fingers appeared again, they swiftly pressed themselves together to form a fist, intending to grab Su Ming while he was within their grasp. When Su Ming sighed, the dragon of destruction folded itself together. Black light appeared on its body. He watched the 5 fingers around him charge at him, and a determined expression showed up on his face. He gave up on the other methods he prepared in his plan, because he just realized that even if he used all of them, it was impossible for him to bring about the effect he wanted. If that was the case, Su Ming decided that he would use the methods he prepared to fight against the third disaster on the second disaster. God of Berserker's transformation. At the instant the hand charged towards Su Ming, covering all the areas around him, and was about to seize him, a brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. He lifted his right hand and swung his arm. Immediately, around 100 million souls of those from great Berserker tribe charged towards him. A part of them gathered on his right arm, making it grow endlessly and filling it with a power that could destroy the world. It surged into the sky. Then, he swung his left arm, and it grew in the exact same manner as his right arm. Countless souls of those from great Berserker tribe fused into his arms before filling his torso, so it grew furiously. Then, it was his legs. At the instant all of this was over, Su Ming had already grown from a normal person's height to about 100-something, and he was now a giant as tall as a mountain. His body was filled with power, his eyes shone with great confidence, and a presence that was like a tidal wave erupted from his body. It belonged to the god of Berserkers. That body was the strongest body of the Berserkers, and Su Ming also possessed a true world's will. It appeared in the third eye at the center of his brow. Right then, it opened to reveal a small crack, and during that moment, Su Ming was the god of the ancient Berserkers. He could fight against the heavens, the earth, and everything in all directions. This was the strongest manifestation of an antecedental spirit's will. When Su Ming activated the god of Berserker's transformation, the 5 fingers were less than hundreds of feet away from him. They covered the area in all directions Su Ming could escape, not allowing him any place to hide, but Su Ming did not intend to hide. Fighting spirit showed up in his eyes. At the moment the fingers descended on him, he growled, leapt forward, lifted his arms swiftly, and pushed them against the descending index finger. At the instant the two sides clashed, booming sounds surged into the sky. The index finger shuddered violently and could no longer continue descending. Once it was pushed back by the effects of the god of Berserker's transformation, Su Ming growled. He clenched his right fist and punched the index finger. It shuddered and bounced back under, allowing Su Ming to fly out from the gap even though the other four fingers had already furled into a fist. Su Ming did not leave far into the distance. Instead, once he flew out, he turned around, pushed his hands together, turned into a long arc that charged towards the clenched hand. The countless souls of the Berserkers that have existed for tens of thousands of years that great Berserker tribe has existed. Today is the day I go through my disaster. Are all of you willing to lend me a hand? Countless shadows seemed to appear at that instant in the area around Su Ming. Those shadows were indistinct, and if one did not pay close attention to them, they would not be able to see them clearly. In fact, even if they watched them clearly, they would feel as if they were just a figment of their imagination. Perhaps they existed, but perhaps they did not. Su Ming's god of Berserkers form instantly closed in on the clenched fist. At the moment they collided, the bang that shot up stirred up all of Yin Death Vortex. Booming sounds traveled through the entire world and even to the world beyond. When the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe saw this, strong light shone in his eyes. Amid the booms, the 5 faces on the hand twisted violently. The index finger was the first to crumble, followed by the little finger, the ring finger, the thumb, the middle finger, and eventually, the palm. All of them crumbled under Su Ming's incredible power after he received the great boost once he went through his god of Berserker's transformation. The second disaster shattered. Su Ming moved back and coughed up a mouthful of blood, but the fighting spirit on his face was still burning brilliantly. The life in his body tumbled while his will roared like a tidal wave and howled like an angry wolf. He had once again sensed that intent to reach a breakthrough in his heart. I can now go through my second spirit ascension, and if I can reach another breakthrough, I can go through 2 consecutive spirit ascensions and reach the 3rd stage. Chapter 1254, The Direction of the Future. Before, Su Ming was on a path leading to the heavens. On this path he could see light, future, and hope. This was the path of 9 spirit ascensions. With 3 spirit ascensions, he could reach the power of those in a Vanikaya realm. With 6 spirit ascensions, he could become unbeatable among those in Avakania realm. With 9 spirit ascensions, he could become a life form which countless lives in the second era in this eon within arid triad expanse cosmos wished to become but which none of them had been able to achieve. Ancestral spirit. After 9 spirit ascensions, he could become an ancestral spirit. Once he became one, it would mean that he stood at the peak among those during the second era. There would no longer be any forms of life that could endanger him, because ancestral spirits shared their lives with the universe. In fact, in some sense, they had already become a part of each other. The path Su Ming originally took was not the path of an ancestral spirit. Only when several events were added together did he take the path to become an ancestral spirit. When he possessed true Morning Tao world and perfected its will, it could be said that he already possessed a relatively infinite amount of life, even if he had not noticed this as of then. There was no end to his life. His existence was eternal. Unless the true world was completely destroyed and his will entirely wiped out, even if Su Ming's form and spirit were destroyed, he would no longer die. All of these elements caused Su Ming to become an incredibly unique existence, even if he had been in the era of the ancestral spirits. He was an antecedental spirit, but he was also one of the 4 great true worlds under Arid Triad's will, thereby allowing him to form a strange connection with Arid Triad's will. This connection was one that even the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe could only barely understand. He did not know the details behind it, because this was a right only ancestral spirits possessed. However, Su Ming could. It was precisely because of his act of possessing a true world after he became an antecedental spirit that he slowly came to an understanding, and that was why Su Ming yearned dearly for the next few spirit ascensions. He longed to successfully have his spirit ascend 9 times at the fastest speed possible to take that legendary step into the indescribable realm, but even though Su Ming longed for it, it was not something that he could obtain just by wanting it. He needed a breakthrough in his state of being, his will, and his heart. Only when he was worthy enough would he be able to obtain the foundation for the next spirit ascension. That was why, even though Su Ming placed a high value on this matter, he knew that he could not rush it. Yet now, when he sensed his will and his state of being boiling, he knew that he was about to be ready to go through his second spirit ascension. In fact, the right to go through his third spirit ascension was also right before his eyes, and greed rose in Su Ming's heart. Riches came from danger. This was a proverb since ancient times, and at that moment, all that Su Ming did proved it right. The spirit of heaven is in this disaster. The possibility of me dying is not high, but I have to prepare myself well and be on guard. No matter what, if I can rush out of Yin Death region, I will immediately head to All Spirits Hall and begin my spirit ascension. If I can have my spirit ascend twice and reach the third, then the longing in Su Ming's eyes grew to be stronger than he had ever felt it before. The legacy of the All Spirits Hall was in front of him. Others would not dare to attempt it even after they saw it, since they did not have the numbers to obtain the legacy. Su Ming had the numbers, but he was not worthy enough. He had hesitated for a long time because of this before he gritted his teeth and left, forcing himself to no longer think of the strange properties of the All Spirits Hall. Yet now, Su Ming saw hope. While under the effects of the All Spirits Hall, he threw his head back and roared. A monstrous light appeared in his eyes, and in the slightly dark Yin Death vortex, his eyes were like two bright lamps. The fire in them burned with life and shone with hope. Why isn't the third disaster here yet? When Su Ming lifted his head, light shone in his eyes, making him an incredibly eye-catching sight in Yin Death vortex. When he leapt up, an increasingly greater aura erupted from his body. It surrounded him, and for the first time, he gathered it together to form a whirlwind in the vortex. This scene was just like what the old man from Heavenly Spirit's tribe had done, but the old man had only been able to form a vortex with his great cultivation base. Su Ming could not hope to compare to the old man's level of cultivation. However, he possessed an incredibly unique condition. He had a true world clone. He had the arid curse that could affect those in Avacania realm and make the arid triads will wake up from its slumber. He could also live through the first and second disasters based on his own abilities. All the strange changes that happened to him due to being in the depths of Yin Death vortex had also caused Su Ming's aura to turn into a vortex instead of him only being to utilize it. The vortex stirred up loud booming sounds and was the third vortex in Yin Death vortex. When the old man from Heavenly Spirit tribe saw this, he immediately narrowed his eyes. A surprised look appeared on his face. The difference in the vortices might not seem great, but in truth, this was an ability of those who had succeeded in their third spirit ascension. When Su Ming's aura turned into a vortex, the light in the old man's eyes shone brilliantly. He lifted his right hand and formed a seal before him. His lips moved slightly, as if he was calculating something. He saw that there seemed to be something strange and enchanting contained in the vortex Su Ming had created with his will, but he could not see it clearly. He could only see that it seemed to have wings. All of this might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, only a few breaths had passed since the destruction of the second disaster to the moment Su Ming created the vortex. The moment the aura from Su Ming's body while he was under the effects of the god of Berserker's transformation created the third vortex in Yin Death region, a flashing light appeared above Yin Death vortex. It could not be seen clearly, though, for it flickered constantly. It seemed like it would continue shining in this manner forever. The arid triad rumbled. Light of different brightness intersected with each other, as if all of arid triad had been placed in a single house, and the lamp in it was flickering on and off. It was difficult for the different degrees of brightness to overlap with each other. This was how arid triad expanse cosmos looked like at that moment. The legendary 6 flash disaster must surely be the one that would arrive after the 5-colored lightning. One flash would mean 100,000 years, and the second flash would mean 1 million. The old man from Heavenly Spirit tribe lifted his head and stared at the vortex. His expression was even graver than before. And judging by the looks of it, Su Ming's first arid disaster will not be limited to just 3. When the old man from Heavenly Spirit tribe thought of this, his expression changed swiftly. At that moment, when booming sounds echoed in Yin Death vortex, the entire vortex varied between being bright and dark, between being lit and being engulfed in darkness, and it looked like all of it came from pictures. Those pictures were extending downwards, as if there was some sort of ancient beast hidden in the flashes of light. At that moment, the ferocious beast had opened its mouth wide and was charging towards Su Ming with madness in its eyes.